Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain. That is Kenny Simpson. We're doing things new today. We're into this whole new technology. Jumped into the StreamYard family today so that we can go live. Tell you what, Kenny, I was at my grandparents' house this weekend, and my grandmother, my aunt, and my mom all talked about they miss seeing the podcast on Facebook because I was using OBS to record and screen record and move it over there, but it just quit working. So thought we'll try this, help us kind of grow the show in different ways, being live and on all of our social media at the same time. We can answer questions. And then, kind of the behind the scenes, it should clip up the shorts and make everything easier for us. So should be a fun little transition.
Yeah, that sounds good. A lot of people ask me about the podcast and say, Daniel's the brains of it. I just kind of show up and talk. So whatever you think, I'm going to trust you.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's good for us. It gives us a chance to host a whole bunch of people if we want to, and we can show video and stuff, which, of course, changes it a little. The dynamics are there, but, with it being a podcast, they can still watch that portion on YouTube. Anyway, so welcome, you guys. Appreciate you all for being here today. If you are watching live, you can leave a comment, and, we can see them and answer them live. So it's going to be pretty sweet, and I don't even have to go to all those websites. It does it all here for us. So feel free to leave a comment, ask questions, whatever. Let's just go ahead and knock out our quote of the week here, Coach.
Yeah, sure. So quote of the week, comes from Team Themes Volume number 5, which I'm currently in the process of finishing. It comes from Coach Pat Riley. Pat Riley, one of my favorite basketball coaches of all time, for Miami Heat, Lakers, a long time ago, says there are only two options regarding commitment. You're either in or you're out. There's no such thing in life as in between. I think that's something we face all the time as coaches with our athletes, is convincing them that, all in really means all in. We call up and say different things all the time, like, family or whatever we want to say, but do we really mean that? Are we really all in on what we're doing? And I think that's really the only way, to play a sport, or really the only way to live your life, is you're all in or you're not all in. But people that are kind of in it, if things are going well, you're not going to win with those kind of people, and you're not going to win if you're one of those kind of people. So that was a pretty good quote to get us started off today.
Yeah, the fair weather fan or fair weather player or coach, there's, it's hard to build anything around those. So that was an excellent point, man. I love that quote. I guess real quick, man, let's just jump straight into Coach. Tell us some way to make football simple for our staff and for our athletes. All right, so we're going to go back and insert some digital ads here. So if you're watching live, of course, you won't see them. When you watch the replay, you'll be able to see those ads. We'll get right back out. All right, man. Since people are watching live, we get to talk about the Gun Tea Clinic that, I leave I think I leave tomorrow or the next day. My wife caught on, Kenny. So, look, she said, listen, Daniel, the clinic is 2 days. You're speaking for an hour and a half. Why are you gone to Boston for 4 days? Well, babe, see, I needed to be there early, so I'm not late, right? So that's a full day. And then you're in Boston, so you stay an extra day. That's pretty fair thinking, right?
Yeah, no, I'm okay because I'm bringing mine, so she's okay with that. But usually that's what we try to do. The clinics, I go down a day early, and I think we're going to try to go. We found some comedy show we're going to go to that Thursday night. And you do need to tell her, a lot of times when you go to these clinics, you got to fly. And I don't know if you know this, but flights aren't always on time.
Right.
So sometimes you run into that stuff. So I try to always go a day early. And so we're going to go down Thursday as well. And Friday, I haven't figured out yet what we're going to do, but we'll probably do some kind of tour during the day. And the main reason we're there, of course, is the clinic. I think we've got over 100 coaches right now coming to Boston. We're going to have a bunch of sessions. Daniel's doing a session. We got 2 or 3 other sessions going on also, as well as the gun tees. So I think going to be a good time for coaches that are going to be there. And I'm excited to get there. I got 2 left. We got Boston, and then the next weekend we have Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Both of them have over 100 coaches, and so it's going to be a fun time.
Be honest with you, I'm going to spend my free time on Friday at the Red Sox game. So it'll be their first home game of the season. I'm pretty excited. I've been to Fenway once, and I guess we actually went 2 or 3 games that stand, but it's back in 2017. So it'd be cool to see the new team, see the new guys out there doing things. But
yeah. I'm not sure we're going to do it yet. I'm talking with Jamie, but Saturday night I think the Bruins are in town, so maybe go watch a hockey game. Clinic will get over about usually 5 or 6 o'clock. I think the game's at 7, so it might be something I don't know if we'll do it or not because I'm usually pretty tired. Those clinics I'm up there for 8 to 12 hours. It's quite a bit, but if I've got the energy left as an old man, we might go do that.
That sounds like a good time too. All right, man. Let's talk about the books you've put out recently. I think there was a couple of them that are pretty fresh.
Yeah, Play Caller's Guide is out. That's been doing really, really well. Gun T 6.0 is out. That's been doing really, really well. I'm really close. I think in the next probably month or so, we'll have the 3-4 Swarm 2.0. So we'll have the first update to our defensive books. I've got probably I would imagine another week's worth of work and then getting it uploaded and shipped and all that kind of stuff. So I would imagine sometime early May, we'll have the 3-4 Swarm book coming out. Team Themes Volume 5, my hope is to have that out this summer. So you've got 2 more that are on their way to come out. And then I'm pretty deep into the process of a book that's going to be titled From 0-10 to 10-0. And so that's probably not going to come out until next year, but those are what are coming. Of course, you can go to the website and order one of the 41 books that are already out over at fbcoachsimpson.com.
Perfect. Remind you guys, if you're going to do headsets, listen, so headsets came out, the most recent one's like this week, if I remember correctly. I think there's 3 volumes out, or 3, I can't remember how they do magazines, but the 3rd magazine for this year is out, and I don't know if that's a volume.
3rd issue. Volumes are years and issues.
There you go. So volume 5 years in a row, they've been putting these out, and this is issue 3 had just popped out. It felt good to get back into that. I just missed one, but man, I was like, I don't feel right. I need to be writing. So if you aren't reading them, go read them. fbcoachsimpson.com/headsets. Check out the magazines, all written by other coaches. And the topics are so vast, right? There's a variety of topics, from whether it's handling timeouts at the end of a half, or if it's, what to do if you're starting quarterbacks in trouble. Like, everything's in those magazines. So go check those out. And if you want to write on those, just contact me or Kenny, and we'll get it all to the right person. And then, it's just write an article, and Jamie will take it from you, and she'll do all the editing of it and makes it look good and puts it in magazines. So it's a great place to start your kind of writing career. If that's what you want to get into, sports writing, or you don't have enough yet to write a book, write a magazine article. It's pretty wonderful. All right, Coach, let's get down to business, I guess. We came today, we're going to talk a little bit of quarterback run game. I've seen it's kind of, I don't want to say getting popular, but definitely Twitter-wise, there are a lot of people that are talking about the quarterback run game right now. I know at the school that I'm working with right now, that's kind of it's not our main run. We have a dude at running back, but we're not afraid to, let him go lead block or whatever else. So it's something that I think everyone should carry. So why don't you tell me, why is the quarterback run game so advantageous to us to use?
Well, there's a couple of obvious things in there. Number one is it's easy to gain numbers. I think that's the biggest thing coaches are looking for is how do we gain numbers? If you're an offensive coordinator, you always have to kind of have answers for, okay, if the defense does X or Y or Z. Well, one of the things the defense can do is they could go man zero and just stack the box. If you're a run-heavy team, that's what you do. Then one answer the defense can give you is, okay, we're going to go man everybody up, and everybody else is just playing run. And if they do that, the defense has a +1 advantage, which means they have one more defender against the run than you do, to account for them.
For sure.
And so the answers you have as an offense are pretty limited. You can either throw the ball because you may like the matchup you have, Or another option, like we're talking about today, is the quarterback run game, because now that flips the numbers advantage back to you. You go from being down one to even, because if you have 5 guys that are eligible, they can only use 6 guys in the box. So you can run your quarterback and kind of gain blockers. And of course, you can do other things with splits to help in that world too. But I would think number one is the numbers advantage. Being able to go empty is very difficult for a defense. How they're going to handle that, especially if you do some different kind of sets that can be tough. If you don't have a quarterback that's a good runner, another option is going wildcat. Just snap the ball back there to your best athlete, and with a numbers advantage, either a lead blocker, running back, or out of empty, or out of whatever you want to get into. You take the quarterback out of the game, and you can use another blocker or receiver or whatever else it is. So wildcat's another option. You can go there. A lot of teams are doing that if they don't have an athlete at quarterback. I think it also makes it really difficult to play man. If you're playing man-to-man defense and there's an athlete back there at quarterback, if he breaks the pocket and all your guys have their backs turned to him, those are going to be explosive plays. That's why you think of, like, at the high levels when you're playing like a Lamar Jackson or one of those types of quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts is another one. You get caught in man with them and they take off running. Those are 30, 40-yard runs because there's nobody there, to make a stop. So as a defense, it really makes you hesitant to play man. Also, I think it makes it hesitant to blitz that guy, because if you blitz him and flush him, that could create other set of issues you don't really want to face. So having that athlete back there gives you that as well. And I think the other part of it, I think it makes the passing game simpler. If I don't have to defend a runner at quarterback, we can show a lot of stuff. But if I've got to account for that guy every play being a threat to run the ball, now it really limits how many guys I can drop in coverage. It limits what kind of coverage we can drop. And because of that, I think it gives you the advantage offensively, where you can, run some simple pass concepts, because it could be read one or run, or read 1-2 or run. And now you kind of flip that advantage back to yourself. You don't have to be exotic in the passing game, because the legs of the quarterback become either option 2 or option 3. And that really, I think, makes it a lot easier to call offense.
Do you think the wildcat has kind of petered out in recent years? It got real big for a while for us around here, but I haven't seen it as much. Do you think it was too much of a tendency?
I think what's happened is people have now just decided, hey, let's make wildcat our permanent offense and snap the ball to the best athlete, and now make him our quarterback. I think that's why, like you said, you don't see it anymore, because now most quarterbacks in the spread world are a dual threat kid, or they're a run threat kid, at least in the area of the country that I'm coaching, which is in your similar area. Generally, if you're going in the shotgun, if that guy's not an elite thrower, you're going with a runner anyway. And so because he's already a runner, you don't really need wildcat. I think that's my reasoning.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see a lot of debate right now about this running quarterback versus throwing quarterback, and what does your team really need? And there is a threshold, I guess, at what he better be an elite thrower if you're going to use him to throw, because an average thrower, but you've got an athlete on the sidelines, I guess that probably doesn't make sense, especially not in an offense like yours and mine, where, let's just be honest, if we throw the ball 5 times, that's okay. We're going to tear it up in the run game with an onslaught of different variations and tags and such. So the pass is just kind of like a secondary thing. So I guess that dude better be able to get it.
Yeah, well, even look at the NFL level. I mean, your last 4 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, you had Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jaden Daniels. Now, they could throw the ball, so obviously they're dual, but all of those guys have in common, they're dual threats. You have to defend them running the ball. And I don't know how many games that Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen's biggest play wasn't a throw. It was a run to convert a first down. So you're seeing, I think you're seeing these guys being groomed as quarterbacks now, where 20 years ago, those guys were running backs or tight ends or receivers, and you were grooming Peyton Manning type guys and Tua Tagovailoa type guys, where they were, in the pocket to throw, Drew Brees type guys.
Yeah.
You can win with both, but I think it's a lot harder to win with a guy who is not a threat to run the ball.
Well, let's talk about that then, man. Let's just talk about why a running quarterback is overall a better fit than a non-running. I know you talked about like the Peyton Manning type, right? Like you better be elite at throwing that ball. But what else would kind of make that decision for us?
Yeah, well, it's hard to find those guys. Like, it's hard to find elite quarterbacks that have the ability to really spin the ball at the high school level, unless you're at a big school where you got a lot to pick from. And so, for 90% of high school coaches, you're not always going to have that option. You may have it 1 year or 2 years, but you're not going to have it every year. And so, to build an offense around a quarterback who, can drop the ball in the bucket every year, you're kind of risking it. What if he gets hurt? What if you don't have a quarterback that year? What if there's a lot of things that can happen where you may not have the next Peyton Manning or the next whatever version of that you want it to be? And the other issues you run into, like I mentioned earlier, was, if he's not a runner defensively, we can do a lot more stuff. We don't have to account for him pulling the ball out the back door, and so now in the run game, we can fit that better because we don't have to account for him. In the passing game, we don't have to account for you really moving the pocket a ton because we're not really worried about that. We're more worried about getting in coverage. And on those type of guys, I'm going to be way more aggressive getting pressure at their feet, because if I can you think of how you stopped Dan Marino back in the day, how you stopped Peyton Manning back in the day, how you stopped Tom Brady. The only way those were the best of the best. You stop those guys by getting pressure in their face, because they didn't have the ability to get out of the pocket and make plays. You get pressure in Patrick Mahomes' face, Josh Allen's face, they're going to get the edge, and now you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big thing we don't think about a lot. And I think it opens up a lot of other stuff. Like, I think to me, it makes your offense almost impossible to stop if the guy can do both. Because for the defense, what are we trying to take away? Like, what are we going after? How are we attacking you? There's not many answers you can have there. And the last thing I think is it's easier in most high schools to find one really good athlete and teach him to throw the ball than it is to find an elite quarterback. Like, I think you're better off 90% of the time, and there are the exceptions. So if you're listening to this and you're at a school of 5,000 kids, you're going to be able to find your true dual threat kid that can spin.
Whoever you want out there, right?
You don't have to listen to this part. If you're at the normal high school, it's going to be much easier for you to take a good athlete in the 7th, 8th, 9th grade and teach them how to play quarterback, and make them a runner first, and then teach them some simple things and fine tune their mechanics in the passing game, get them better as they get older. You're going to have a lot more success with that than you are hoping you have an elite passer. This past year for us, we had a sophomore quarterback, really good athlete, probably one of the best athletes in the school, if not the best athlete. And as he got more comfortable, and he could throw the ball, but he was mainly back there because he could be a dual threat kid. Like, he could run the ball and he could pass the ball. And so as he came on for us and got better and better and better, our offense, I watched get tougher and tougher and tougher and tougher to stop because we started allowing him to run the ball, and now you got to defend the whole field. You got to defend strong side run, backside run where he pulls it. You got to defend the passing game. You got to defend, boot, kind of boot action type game. It makes it really, really difficult. And I think it's easier to take a great athlete as a young athlete and teach him to throw it than it is to hope your kid who's tall and long and can spin it turns into an athlete. I think you're seeing a lot of coaches go that way. That's why, Daniel, you mentioned you don't see Wildcat much anymore. But even look at your college landscape of the best colleges, other than the kid from Georgia. Is it Beck that played at Georgia?
Yeah.
Every other team that I saw play in the college football playoffs, their quarterbacks were a true run threat.
Yeah.
You'll see one every now and then. Kid from Michigan last year, who wasn't really much of a run threat, but he could really throw it. But most of the quarterbacks you're seeing are dual threat kids. Well, they didn't start off that way. They started off as great runners in junior high, and they developed as a passer as they got farther along.
So a couple questions here. One, do we eliminate a standard quick game? Run a hitch, run a slant, run a fade when we go to this dual threat? Because you talked about one read and run. Well, I probably need him booting if he's going to really run. Otherwise, he's, going to be running right back up a clogged middle. So does that eliminate that from our playbook? Do we just have to put them on, is it flood route all the time?
It depends on the quarterback. I mean, I've had quarterbacks before that they were great athletes, and man, they struggled completing those routes. So we just took that out of like you just said, we just eliminated that. We said, all right, we're not going to run that. We may run like roll out with an out route or a flood concept or something where you could run it. This year's kid I had was actually more of a dual threat, so we were able to keep that in our playbook because he could sit in the pocket and deliver. That wasn't probably what he was best at.
Right.
But he was able to do that. And if you gave it to us, you gave us one-on-one or you gave us whatever, I would call that. So I think that you don't have to eliminate it necessarily. But if they are more of a runner and not a great thrower, then yeah. I mean, like what we've done in those years, that's come out of our playbook. And in its place has come more like power read or, run option type stuff.
Yeah, we've a couple of years ago down at Stillwell, we had a kid that could throw it okay, but it was a typical small town school. Like you didn't have an elite athlete at quarterback or at receiver to make great catches. So if the ball wasn't perfect, they probably weren't. We just ran buck sweep as our pass pro. You know what I mean? And big gun T team there, so we were running your stuff, and so our pass pro was just buck right, buck left. It alternated a little bit of stuff, but we got linebackers out of their zones and opened up the middle because it was quarterback run right until it wasn't. It was almost the opposite of it's pass until we run. No, it was run until you see something and you just sling it out there. So,
right.
We had a lot of fun with that. But we did, I think it was a struggle to keep everything from being a flood route, which is hard to defend from standard defenses. But if you have all week to prepare for, hey, they throw 15 floods, you're gonna move around the kids and change the way you do things. So, that was a good question that I thought needed to be answered. The second one here is, how do we prevent the quarterback run game from just being what we do every snap? Right? You talk about how good it is, and you get this +1, and how do we keep from stealing all the reps from our running back, who I assume is probably pretty good too? Maybe he's not. You need to just eliminate him, but I don't want to become such a heavy tendency that, hey, the quarterback's going to run the ball here. How do we prevent that from happening?
I think it depends on the kid and the team. Like you said, I've played teams before. We played a team in our conference that, man, their quarterback was basically a wildcat kid, and he ran it 30 times a game. And I've never done that, but they had some success with it, made the playoffs, second round. I think a lot of it depends on the type of kid you have. For us, even our running back, we don't want to run him 30 times, until we have to. So I think a lot of times that's the mindset you have to have as a coach is, how often are we going to do this? The Buffalo Bills could run Josh Allen 20 times a game if they wanted to, but he's got to play 18 games plus whatever. So they're careful with how often they use it. And I think that's kind of what you have to be as a coach is it's there. And on third downs, we're probably going to take it, but we don't want to do it every down because we can't run this kid into the ground. And so I think that's just kind of a much more of a personnel issue. And if you're snapping it back there to a kid who's 220, and that's kind of what he's back there to do, you probably could do it, but most teams, you don't want to get that kid hurt. You don't want to wear him down. So you're going to be a little more limited on how often you do it, and that's kind of where I think you got to figure out your personnel and what you guys look like.
I think it was really neat to see Buffalo run Josh Allen a lot more this year because as much as football is trickling up right now, and I think it is a ton. I think a ton of high school stuff is going to the NFL, and probably only for the last 3 to 5 years. Before that, everything had to come down. And we were all replicating whoever the good guy was at the NFL level. But we still need justification or verification that what we're doing is okay from those top level guys. And I think some coaches are afraid to run the quarterback. Well, what if I get him hurt? Well, what if you lose every game because you don't let your best athlete tote the rock, right? What if your running back gets hurt? Now who's going to carry the ball anyway? So there's a lot of what ifs with injuries. But I remember watching one game for them. It was in the snow, which is probably like 75% of their games. But they ran the ball 10 or 12 times on one drive, no passes. And I think he carried them about half, right? And he goes down and scores a touchdown. That was great for high school coaches to see, like, this highest paid ever. I think he's the highest ever now, right? The highest guaranteed ever quarterback in the NFL is toting the rock on half the plays on a single drive when it matters. Like when the game's on the line, let your dude tote the rock. So
look at Jalen Hurts. I mean, they just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to call him an elite passer. He's gotten better as a passer, but he's back there mainly because he's a true dual threat.
So it's good to see we're kind of justified in saying, hey, your son's going to play quarterback for me. He's going to carry the ball 15, 20 times a game. Mm-hmm. And the parents are more on board now because Josh Allen just did it and Jalen Hurts just did it and Jaden Daniels just did it, right? These cats that are making decisions based on millions and millions and millions of dollars are making the same decision that we've been making at the high school level for years. Like, it's my best kid. He's got to run it. So I think that's pretty neat. Last question here, Coach, and we'll start looking to kind of close out. But how are we pairing? So let's just say we're in an offense now. You run the gun T. I run kind of a multiple type offense. Some guys are spread, air raid, et cetera, et cetera. How do we take what we're doing now and add a run game component to it? How do we pair what we're talking about, all these advantages of the quarterback run game, with whatever we're doing right now?
I mean, I think the simplest way is probably just to keep the same exact runs and just tag the quarterbacks running it. So, I mean, think about if you have an inside run, you could go to empty and just snap it and let him run it. You could window dress it and let him, flash fake a ball and run it. You could put the running back next to him and lead block, but basically it's your line is not going to learn anything different. They're going to block whatever you've called. He's going to run the ball, and so that's the simplest way to do it is you just snap it to the kid and run the same run plays you already had and either do it from a formation that's different, gain a lead blocker, or window dress it with some fakes, but that changes nothing. That's an easy install. Like that's a 5-minute install. It doesn't take much at all. Or you could get a little more exotic and run options, RPO type things, or run options where, bash, where you're going to run stretch right but block GT left and let him read something. And if the defense flies, he pulls it and runs it. Power reads another one. You're going to run outside stretch or whatever, read the place ID in, and he can pull it and run up the middle. So there's lots of ways you can make it. If he can read it, you can make it more exotic. That's Buffalo does that a lot with Josh Allen. Philadelphia does that a lot with Jalen Hurts. At the NFL level, you don't really see a lot of just straight quarterback runs. You see a few, but most of them have an option in them. Run option, or like you just talked about, I'm going to run the ball at quarterback and we're going to have some route combos going on. Like that was before that became a thing. That's what people did with flood. You roll out, you look to run first. If you can't run, you throw it. Well, now you just dress it up with some kind of pin and pull or some kind of whatever else it's going to be. And his quarterback run, or he could throw the ball. So that's a couple different ways. A big thing too, I think, is you're making them cover with one less guy. So you think about, like, if you run a flood route or some kind of boot or something where you get your quarterback on the edge, that's already difficult. Like that's difficult at any level, even if he's not a run threat. It's really difficult if he's a run threat because somebody has to account for the quarterback on the second level of the defense. It's got to be some linebacker. It's got to account for the quarterback to run it because you're teaching him look to run first. If he's accounted for, all you have to do as a coach is figure out, okay, which guy is on the quarterback and make sure I call the play that brings a receiver into that zone. What zone is being vacated because they're covering our quarterback? Are they bringing an inside backer Well, the curl route or end breakers should be open. Are they bringing an outside linebacker? We got to be able to run a little shoot route or dump route or whatever else is on. So to me, I think that's the kind of stuff you look at with your quarterback being able to run the ball is you don't have to just revamp your whole offense. So step one is you just run the same stuff and tag the quarterback to run it. Step two, if he can read it, is now I can run the same runs and leave an unblocked guy and let him read it. And then step three is in your passing game. I don't think you have to add anything. I think you can actually take things out in your passing game because you teach him that his legs are an option.
Yes. Yeah, we're a big full field read team on our pass stuff, and I know that that's a controversy in itself, whether you just read one player, one side, or whatever. But when our running threat quarterback is out there, we know, number one, he's never getting to the second or third read, so he's going to run, and so we've changed the offense for him. The kids still run the same routes. He might be thinking backside first, right? We run a lot of Y cross. He may pre-snap read the Y cross or the go outside and be like, nope, that's not there pre-snap. So all he's looking is backside. So he's kind of modified the offense in his own way, but still to find some success. I look forward to watching him grow over these next couple of years. See if we can get him into 2 or 3 reads before he bails. Maybe not. We'll see. And honestly, I don't think it matters when he pulls it down the run. He's a go-getter. So everybody knows that I'm big into the tagging system, so we're going to tag up the offense, and so this to us is just another tag. So if that's what you're looking for, is to get your quarterback in the run game. Kenny, you talked about it. Keep all your same run schemes. We're big into like 9 kids are doing the same thing, 2 kids are changing. So that's how we do it. If we're going to run buck or we're going to run outside zone or whatever, we're just tagging it with a word that tells the running back, hey, you're going to fake getting the ball the opposite way, or you can just line up play side and go lead block. You can fake getting the ball in the same direction we want to go. So maybe it is buck to the right. It looks like he's running buck to the right, but he comes a lead blocker. So we've got lots of fun ways. We've even taken care of like backside defensive ends with our tailback after he fakes the mesh. So I think once again, if you live and die in this tag world like I do, that's just another tag for you. It's just hey, once again, 9 of you are running buck. Don't worry about all the rest of it. You 2 in the backfield know that this is a fake or a lead or whatever. So that is another way to get to it. I personally have probably struggled with getting the run game to make sense with the pass game because, we're dialing up a pass because it's 3rd and 15. I don't really want you running 10 yards deep and decide, never mind, I'm going to go run 25 yards for the first down. But and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? We've missed big pass plays because the quarterback just pulled it and ran, and the pass was there. Whether he can complete it or not is a different story. And then, we've had the guy that probably didn't have the wheels. The pass wasn't there. He tries to take off and run, and now with the loss of 2 or 3 or whatever, because he just doesn't have the oomph to go get it done. And I've seen that all throughout my career, right? With multiple, you talk about like the diversity of a quarterback, and I'm going to steal a little bit of your today's lesson because I see it wrote there, but quarterbacks come in all shapes and sizes, right? And I think it's really neat what you talk about is like, just put your best athlete at quarterback and snap him the ball. I don't know if you're really wanting to be a pass heavy offense, which some guys just have that inclination to go do. I don't know how you change that up. I don't know how you make that fit with that offense. But for the rest of us who are just make this offense work this week or this year, right, with the kids we have, I think that absolutely is the best way to do it. So wildcat all the time, if you will. Sweet, Coach. Well, that closes out the questions there, kind of checked all the boxes. So let's get into our lesson, what not to do as a coach.
Yeah, I think like you kind of mentioned, is not to view the quarterback position as a cookie cutter position. I think that's becoming normal now. But for a long time, probably even 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, we kind of had a vision of what we thought our quarterback was going to look like. You walk out on the field, you're looking for a tall kid who can spin it a little bit, and that's great if you're at the college level or the NFL level where you have 100 kids to pick from or 1,000 kids to pick from. Obviously, we would all like a tall quarterback who can drop the ball in a bucket and who can run. Like everybody wants that kid. If you have that kid, awesome. But don't overlook the 5'8" jitterbug who's a leader on your team who runs a 4.4. Like maybe you can do some good stuff with that kid. Or maybe you can do some good stuff with the kid who doesn't throw it as well as you'd like him to throw it, but my goodness gracious, he is lightning in a bottle. Or maybe your guy is, big, thick former guard, who's 220, or 230, but he can throw it well enough and he's physical and hard to tackle. I think sometimes as coaches, we kind of have a box of what we're looking for quarterback. So we settle for a lesser kid because he checks some of the boxes that we have. I think good coaches can take the best athlete or the best option they have available and adapt to what they are. And I don't think you have to run the ball all the time. Like I think you can take these kids and throw the ball 15, 20, 30 times a game if that's what they're able to do and can develop. If you're blessed to be at a school where you can pick them young, we try to pick really good athletes in the 7th and 8th and 9th grade and then just kind of see which ones develop because you don't really know how they're going to develop until you give them a chance. But if you're picking your best athletes in those grades, your odds are going to be much higher that they're going to be able to develop a little bit, and then you can evolve your offense to whenever they're your quarterback on your varsity team. So I think that's the biggest lesson for me is just, don't pigeonhole what quarterback needs to look like. Don't lose a game because you can't get the ball to your best athlete. If you can snap it to him, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, that's the number of times I've seen people try to force a quarterback in there because you look like a quarterback, right? When he really just isn't quite there. It's kind of, I guess it happens all over. Honestly, I've seen it at big school, small school, all over the place. So
we've lost. We had 2 games we lost to the same team. I'm not going to say what program they are, but we had two games over a span of about 5 or 6 years where we lost to a team because we hurt their quarterback.
Right.
Like the starter was in there, and we were like, we hurt him, and we went, oh no, because we knew they're going to take their best athlete now and stick him back there, and we can't stop that guy. And so we've had that happen 2 times to us, at least I can think of vividly, where we did them a favor, by making them play their best kid at quarterback.
We had the same thing last year. Luckily, the kid was, for whatever reason, he was out for the first half, and I just watched him warming up on the sidelines, and I was like, I don't know what this cat's doing. And at halftime, he came in and made us look really stupid. Luckily, we had put up enough points in the first half. We didn't, we sweated it out to get the victory, but you're right, man. That's scary. You talk about the guy can just go lightning in a bottle and, can't tackle him. There's not a lot you can do. Spot drop, cover 3, pattern match, doesn't matter. Cover 1, you're in trouble. So there's definitely something to that. All right, Coach, man. Well, let's close it out here one last time. We'll talk about our sponsors, Ace Sports. If you haven't reached out to Mark and Ryan and the guys, it's time now. Look, it's April 1 as we're recording this. You probably aren't going to get a board up this year, but it's a great time to kind of get the foundation laid. And I mean that figuratively and literally. But you can, get the admin on board, get your fundraising started. Talk to Mark, man. He's really, really good about walking you through, showing you the vision, selling it to your admin, and showing you exactly what can be out of this cheat code that is video board fundraising through ad revenue. I'll be with him this month where we're going to Kentucky, right? Looking forward to that, doing some live podcasting from Kentucky. I think we've got 8, 9, 10 coaches over there lined up to bring on the podcast. We'll be doing some just live events through the podcast channel. So definitely looking forward to that. And I believe we're going to Texas as well this year. Going to go down into the Texas High School Football Association, maybe their clinic. We'll see. I'm not exactly, all the details are still kind of blurry. We're getting them lined out. So if you're going to be in Kentucky in April for a clinic, it's probably the one I'll be at. Come say hi. We'll get you on the podcast. Let's talk about social media real quick. I am on Twitter at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. I do have a website, chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. Jump over there. It's really right now a place just for you to find the podcast easier until I figure out what I'm going to do with it. Who knows? Patreon.com is where I am helping coaches get better at what they do. So if that is social media, if that is digital art for you to celebrate your kids, if it's X's and O's, kind of whatever it is you need, I have something there for you. There's lots of tiers. Find a tier that works. If there's not a tier that makes sense to you on Patreon, then just hit me up and we'll create one and put your name on it, and we'll make it your own custom tier. It's not a big deal. And then, of course, YouTube at Coach Chambo OK, where some of you are probably watching this right now. Coach Simpson, where can we find you at, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So FBCoachSimpson.com, at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter or X, and then FB Coach Simpson at gmail.com is my email. You can find me on Facebook at all the groups we're at as well. So just reach out if I can do anything to help you.
Perfect. The podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter/X. Feel free to share and jump over there, communicate, hit some comments. Let us know what you think about the episodes. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you will always know when the new episodes are out. It is time to start leaving reviews. If you haven't sent us a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, this is the time we're asking so we can share the message. We can grow our voice. We want the platform to get bigger to help coaches. So make sure you're leaving us a review. We want 5 stars or thumbs up or likes or whatever it is now. If it's not that, holler at us. Let us know why. I bet we can make a change. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up, no matter the situation. Find a way.